Chapter 52, Demons Appear in the World, Yunweisi Ancestral Land. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Half an hour later, the fairy island returned to peace again. In the palace, young Chan'er was barefoot, knees curled up, shivering in the corner, sobbing softly. Her eyes were wet, and her pretty face was full of tears. Her expression was aggrieved, scared, and a little bit of hidden resentment. What do you think? Do you know you are wrong? Li Guanhai stood with his hands behind his back, looking at her coldly, with a strong threat in his eyes. As long as she dared to say no, he would do it again. Anyway, he had plenty of time. Young Chan'er also saw this. She was so scared that she shrank back into the corner again. She felt so aggrieved that she couldn't help but shed a few more tears. This pitiful look, coupled with her beautiful face, could make sure demons feel pity. However, Li Guanhai was hard-hearted and was not moved at all. He just looked at her coldly. Damn bastard, I will settle accounts with you sooner or later. Young Chan'er secretly swore in her heart, but finally chose to compromise. She was really scared. That feeling was simply unbearable for ordinary people. Torture was one aspect, but the main thing was shame. She had never had contact with the opposite sex since she was a child, and she had never even said a few words. Now she was barefoot and was being tickled by Li Guanhai in his hands. This made her anxious, angry and ashamed, and she wanted to find a piece of tofu and hit her head against it. I know I was wrong. Young Chan'er endured the humiliation and squeezed out these words from her teeth with great difficulty. Li Guanhai looked at her and suddenly sighed. The coldness on his face melted away, and he bent down to pick up the two exquisite embroidered shoes that fell to the ground. Rat theft and dog theft are low-class behaviors, which are despised by the righteous. If you like these things, I will give them all to you. As Li Guanhai said, he held young Chan'er's white ankles and gently put on the shoes for her. Seeing that he was going to put shoes on her, young Chan'er subconsciously tried to dodge, but when she heard what he said, she was stunned and let him grab her tender feet. You are lying to me, right? Are you really going to give me all these things? That she was so excited and shocked that she couldn't speak properly. Silly girl, why would I lie to you? Li Guanhai laughed and scolded, and began to put on the second shoe for her. Young Chan'er pursed her red lips tightly, staring at Li Guanhai who was so close to her without blinking, and suddenly she was a little dazed. He seemed to be really good to her, then why did he do that back then? Could it be that there was something else behind what happened back then? After all, he was only 5 years old at that time. What could a 5-year-old child understand? At this time, Li Guanhai put on her shoes, reached out and picked her up, and then waved his sleeves. A breeze blew out, and all the rare treasures disappeared wherever it passed. In just a few blinks of an eye, all the rare treasures piled up in the palace were collected in the Qianquan bag. Li Guanhai casually threw the Qianquan bag to young Chan'er. Young Chan'er caught the Qianquan bag, which was heavy and still warm, left by Li Guanhai. She stared at the Qianquan bag in her hand, and suddenly her nose felt sour, and she almost couldn't help crying. She didn't know why she was like this. Why are you so good to me? Young Chan'er tried hard not to cry, but her voice was still choked up. Li Guanhai glanced at her, with an extremely gentle smile on his face, and his tone was deliberately gentle. Because you are my sister. This sentence almost made the proud young Chan'er unable to hold back. She said with red eyes, don't use sweet words to coax me. You are not so kind. You just know how to bully me. I'm leaving. After that, she fled in a hurry. When she escaped from the palace, she didn't pay attention to her feet and was tripped by the threshold and almost fell. Li Guanhai didn't stop her and let her go. After a while, the space fluctuated, and Li Ningxuang's enchanting figure appeared behind Li Guanhai. Master, do you need to send someone to secretly protect Miss Chan'er? She asked with a cold voice. No, this girl is very vigilant and has great luck. Nothing will happen. Let her hone herself outside. Li Guanhai's figure gradually faded and finally disappeared. 3 days later, Xiahou Aoxue returned to Xiahou Xian dynasty. She still had many things to deal with. In another month and a half, the no-return realm of the 100,000 mountains will be opened. After entering the no-return realm, it will definitely take several months to get out, so before that, she must deal with things properly before she can enter the no-return realm with peace of mind. In the past few days, the major sects that stayed at Yunweisi left one after another. Then, a terrible news swept the upper world, when the elders and Tianjiao of Broken Waterfall Mountain returned to the sect. They found that the entire sect had been slaughtered and no one survived. This is not the key point. The more important thing is that every corner of Broken Waterfall Mountain is filled with extremely strong demonic energy, and every dead person, the blood and origin were drained, like a dried corpse. Horrible, it was done by the demon cultivator. Once this news came out, it immediately caused a sensation in the entire upper world, even more shocking than Li Guanhai's comprehension of the law field at the age of 20. The demon cultivator who had been silent for nearly 10,000 years suddenly rose up and destroyed an entire sect. Although Broken Waterfall Mountain is not a first-rate or top-tier force, it is also a top-tier second-rate force in the upper realm, and it is a dominant existence. The contemporary sect of Broken Waterfall Mountain has reached the late stage of the Xian Emperor, and each of the 8 elders of the sect has reached the late stage or peak of the Xian King realm. There is even an old ancestor in the Xian Emperor realm in the sect, and there is also a real sect guarding holy weapon, but even so, the entire sect of Broken Waterfall Mountain was still slaughtered by the demon cultivators, including the sect master and the old ancestor of Broken Waterfall Mountain, all of whom died. What does this mean? This means that the demon cultivator who slaughtered Broken Waterfall Mountain has at least the strength of the middle and late stage of the Xian Emperor, and may even be a Xian saint. After all, the old ancestor of Broken Waterfall Mountain is a Xian Emperor himself, and with a sect guarding holy weapon, ordinary Xian Emperors are no match for him. For a time, the entire upper realm was in an uproar, and all the second-rate forces were in danger, fearing that the demon cultivators would come to their door at any time. This incident became a topic of discussion in the entire upper world. Whether it was the casual cultivators in the tea houses on the street or the sect disciples on the sacred mountain and Fairy Island, they were all discussing this matter. The demon cultivators who had been silent for 10,000 years suddenly appeared in the eyes of the world in such a high-profile way. Does this indicate that the peaceful and prosperous times are coming to an end, and the chaotic times of demons are coming? Suddenly, a very terrible guess came into the minds of the cultivators. Could it be that the reincarnation of the evil spirits has appeared? The 4 words "the reincarnation of the evil spirits" are almost the nightmare of all cultivators. The people in the upper world were in panic, but the major divine sects and Taoist sects did not use their power to search for the demon cultivators as the casual cultivators imagined. Instead, they calmed down, and the silence was a bit weird. But after thinking about it carefully, the casual cultivators were relieved. In another month and a half, the no-return realm of the 10,000 mountains will be opened. These divine sects must be considering the affairs of the no-return realm, so how can they care about the demon cultivators? Of course, necessary precautions must be taken, otherwise who knows if the demon cultivators will set their sights on him. Yunwei Division, Inner Island. Li Guanhai is in the Sutra Library, reading ancient books about opening up space wormholes. As long as he can open up a space wormhole and connect it to the creation cauldron, he can continuously absorb the yin qi of the underworld mountain absolute veins, allowing his own spiritual power to be constantly tempered and undergo qualitative changes. And his cultivation realm will also be improved at an incredible speed. It's just that opening up a space wormhole is too difficult. In the past few days, Li Guanhai has been immersed in the sea of books and has read hundreds of ancient books, but there are only a few words describing space wormholes. This really gave him a headache, which was equivalent to an inexhaustible mountain of gold and silver, but he could only watch it. Only he could experience this kind of itchy and tormenting taste. Li Guanhai had just picked up an ancient book called Records of Strange Treasures from Mountains and Seas when the space behind him fluctuated. Yan Gu, wearing a ghost face, walked out of the void and said respectfully, "Young master, the ancestor wants to see you." "Which ancestor?" Li Guanhai asked as he flipped through the ancient book. "The 21st ancestor." Yan Gu answered respectfully, his voice steady and without any waves. Li Guanhai nodded and said, "I understand. I'll take my leave." Yan Gu bowed and saluted, his figure gradually faded, and finally disappeared. Li Guanhai put Records of Strange Treasures from Mountains and Seas into his Qianquan bag, stood up and left the Sutra Library, turned into a stream of light and rushed into the clouds, heading for the ancestral land. the ancestral land is located on a fairy island in the deepest part of the inner island of Yunwei Division. There are many barriers set up there. If you are not a member of the clan, let alone breaking in, you can't even see the fairy island. On the fairy island, in the mist, there stands a magnificent palace built with Kungsu's sacred wood. This palace is called the Hall of Rebirth, which is where the ancestors of the Yunwei Division live. Kungsu's sacred wood is an ancient relic, which has the miraculous effect of obscuring the universe and hiding the secrets of heaven. Assuming that a person only has 10 days left to live, as long as he lives in the Hall of Rebirth built with Kungsu's sacred wood, he can live for hundreds of years. Because this place hides the secrets of heaven, even the reincarnation of heaven can hardly reduce a person's lifespan. From this, we can see how many ancestors of the Yunwei Division are hidden in this Hall of Rebirth, and what level of cultivation they have reached. Guanhai asks to see the 21st ancestor. Li Guanhai stood in front of the Hall of Rebirth, straightened his clothes and bowed deeply. Creak, as soon as the words fell, the mist on the island rolled up and gently pushed open the heavy and simple door of the Hall of Rebirth. Then, a desolate and ancient hoarse voice came from the hall as if it had crossed the long river of time. Come in. Chapter 53, 6 Xuan Jing, the reincarnation of the Emperor of the Earth. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Walking into the Palace of Purity, there is a ray of light floating in the eternal darkness, the first ray of light between heaven and earth, simple and ordinary. The energy of Hongmeng spans the darkness like a river of stars, and the vicissitudes of the sea and the stars are all evolving in this eternal darkness. Li Guanhai was shocked. This Kungsu divine tree was indeed an ancient relic. It had the uncanny ability to reverse events and reverse cause and effect. He walked up to the clumsy and ordinary beam of white light, bowed and saluted. Junior Li Guanhai has met the 21st ancestor. No need to be polite. The 21st ancestor spoke slowly, and after a long silence, he said, yes, he has broken through to the Xuanhuan realm at this age, and also understood the field of laws. He can be called the first person in the history of Yunwei Division, who is older than us. Much more capable. His voice was hoarse and erratic, as if it came from another time and space, and his tone was full of admiration. Li Guanhai said humbly, the 21st ancestor is overly praised, and Guanhai is just a fluke. Hearing this, the 21st ancestor laughed and said, luck is also a kind of strength. Looking at the history, who has such luck? Li Guanhai smiled slightly and said straight to the point, the 21st ancestor called Guanhai here, but for the Hongmeng jade that has not returned to the world. Smart, our Yunwei Division has begun a plan that has been planned for tens of thousands of years, and the Hongmeng jade is a key to unlocking the plan and is indispensable. This time, the realm of no return in the 100,000 mountains has opened. When you enter it, you must do your best to win the Hongmeng jade. Remember, Hongmeng jade is a rare treasure that was first opened from chaos. It gave birth to spiritual wisdom as soon as it appeared in the world, and it can transform all things. It can climb up to the clouds, down to shrink the earth, hide its form and change its appearance, and has endless magical powers. You need to be careful to find it. Before you set off, go to the Baikan Palace. There is a wheel of reincarnation in the Baikan Palace. It can divine the secrets of heaven and may be able to help you. The 21st Patriarch spoke in a cautious tone and spoke solemnly. Guanhai understands. Li Guanhai bowed again and exited the Palace of Rebirth. The great plan mentioned by the 21st ancestor is also the wish and ambition of countless generations of Yunweisi. To achieve this plan, we need more than just Hongmeng jade. It can only be said that Hongmeng jade is the most important thing. In addition to the Hongmeng jade, 6 six-path spirit beads and the souls of 5 ancient beasts are also needed. Over tens of millions of years, Yunweisi has collected 3 six-path spiritual beads and the souls of 2 ancient beasts. With the opening of the realm of no return this time, the ancestors of the Palace of Rebirth had a premonition that the Hongmeng jade would appear, which also heralded the imminent great changes. In the upper world, if you miss this time, Hongmeng jade will deceive Tianji again, and I don't know how long it will take before it appears again. Therefore, you must hit the mark with every strike and never slack off at all. Just now, the 21st ancestor mentioned the Baikan Palace, which made Li Guanhai's mind appear in Li Guanhai's mind a figure with a gauze face, pure and pure, and an unparalleled elegance. Fairy Wugo, I haven't seen her for some time, so I just happened to pay a visit this time. Half a month later, Li Guanhai led a group of green flag guards and followers onto the flying Shenzhou, left Yunwei Division, and headed for the land beyond. The flying Shenzhou pierced through the clouds and fog, passed through several teleportation arrays in major cities, and finally arrived at the land beyond the Fong 5 days later. The land beyond the outside does not refer to a place, but an area where many hidden world traditions are located. The territory of the land beyond is also hundreds of millions of miles away, and it does not border the upper world. The two areas are separated by an immeasurable sea. The boundless sea is home to countless aquatic creatures, whose talents and minds are not weaker than those of human monks. Moreover, water tribe creatures are born with innate magical powers, extremely powerful bloodline, and their combat power is generally a step or even several times higher than that of monks in the same realm. They are very powerful. Among Li Guanhai's followers, there is also a strong man from the water tribe. He is a member of the shark tribe. His skin is as hard as iron. He is good at using a three-pronged fork. He is powerful and has a flexible mind. He can be regarded as one of Li Guanhai's more capable subordinates. The flying divine boat crossed the immeasurable sea and entered the land beyond. The fairy mist is misty and the clouds are steaming in the Baikan Palace. In a cold palace built of white jade and not stained by dust, a plain skirt fell to the ground, a veil covered her face, and a beautiful and slender figure sitting cross-legged on a futon. It was Fairy Wushou. Her eyes were closed tightly, her eyebrows were slightly furrowed, and a faint white light was flickering between her eyebrows, looming like a flame in the strong wind, which might be extinguished at any time. After a long time, she opened her crystal clear, indifferent eyes, her brows filled with sorrow, and she couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Ever since she learned about the love disaster, she has been distracted and restless all day long. She can't even concentrate on her practice. If it weren't for her cold temperament, pure heart and few desires, and the cold jade bed to drive away distracting thoughts, she might have become possessed long ago, but even so, she still couldn't settle down all day long. Whenever she closed her eyes, she would think of the man in white clothes who was so shocked that he was so stunning. At this moment, a petite girl opened the door and walked in. She smiled and said, "Sister Wu Gu, Saint Xuan Jing is here." Xuan Jing, immediately Fairy Wugo became energetic, stood up and floated out of the cold palace, towards the mountain gate. At the gate of the mountain, a woman in white clothes, who is elegant and unconventional, with peerless beauty, surrounded by a layer of light smoke and mist, stands quietly. Her whole body is snow white, and her beauty is breathtaking. The real autumn water is the sacred jade and the bones are. Against the backdrop of the colorful clouds, her whole body is dyed with a faint silver glow, just like the most beautiful fairy in the world. Her full name is Lu Xianjing, and she is a contemporary saint of the Emperor's Palace. The Emperor's Palace is famous in the upper world, with a long history. It has always been committed to saving the world and saving the people. Soon, Fairy Wugo came with the breeze, and her beautiful eyes outside the veil were slightly curved. It was obvious that she was very happy to see her friend. "Xian Jing, aren't you in seclusion? How come you have time to come to me?" Fairy Wugo asked, quite pleasantly surprised. These days, she has been depressed and frowning because of the love disaster. Now she has a friend to chat with and feel comfortable, and she can temporarily put those troubles behind her. Lu Xianjing stared at her for a while, and asked in a cold voice, "Yenner, you look much more haggard, is there anything bothering you?" Hearing this, Fairy Wugo sighed and shook her head. "This matter is a long story, let's not talk about it for now, let's talk about why you came to me first. You don't miss me, do you?" She rarely joked, her eyes were full of smiles and playfulness. "Of course I'm not missing you. I came to you because I want you to do me a favor." Lu Xianjing didn't give any face at all and answered very straightforwardly. Even though Fairy Wugo was cold and aloof, she couldn't help but roll her eyes at her after hearing this and asked unhappily, "Tell me, what's the matter?" "I want you to use the Qianquan Samsara disc to help me count a person." "Who?" "The reincarnation of the Emperor of the Earth." Chapter 54, The Reincarnation of the Patient on Earth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Has the Earth Emperor of this life been born? Fairy Wugo was somewhat puzzled and asked back, didn't you say that the Earth Emperor of this life would not wake up until at least 100 years later? Lu Xianjing said calmly, I don't know the specific situation, but the elders of my Earth Emperor Palace have sensed the reincarnation of the Earth Emperor. Recently, the demon cultivators have been rampant, and the demon race has faintly shown signs of revival. I think the Earth Emperor's early appearance should be related to this. Oh, I'll take you to find Master. Fairy Wugo knew that this matter was of great importance, and immediately took Lu Xianjing to the main peak temple. At this moment, the sect protection formation was withdrawn, the clouds and mist were dispersed, and a majestic flying divine ship broke through the mist and covered the sky. Fairy Wugo became alert and looked at it, and her delicate body trembled immediately. On the flying divine ship, on the fluttering flag, there was a word cloud painted, and there was a faint flow of Taoism. Yunweisi, is he here? Fairy Wugo murmured, her body and mind, which had just relaxed, suddenly became tense, and her heartbeat accelerated. The flying Shenzhou stopped in mid-air, and Li Guanhai, dressed in white, descended from the sky like a banished immortal, with flowers falling like rain and a faint fragrance floating in the air. Behind him, followed a dozen followers including Li Ningxuang, and the cold-faced Qingqi guards. Fairy Wugo, we meet again. Li Guanhai smiled lightly, as gentle as jade. Master Guanhai, hello, long time no see. This time, facing Li Guanhai, Fairy Wugo could no longer remain calm, and did not dare to look at him at all, but bowed with her eyes lowered. Who is this? Li Guanhai turned his gaze to Lu Xianjing beside him and asked with a smile. Lu Xuanjing's face was as cold as ice, and her eyes were clear. Seeing him asking, she bowed and said, my daughter is the descendant of the Earth Emperor Palace, Lu Xianjing, meet the young Master Guanhai. So it's the Earth Emperor Palace. Li Guanhai raised his eyebrows. He had heard of the reputation of the Earth Emperor Palace. This force, like the Yunwei Division, has been passed down from ancient times. It's just that the Earth Emperor Palace never participates in the disputes of the major sections. It is dedicated to protecting the people of the world and is admired by all living beings. More importantly, the Earth Emperor of the Earth Emperor Palace has an immortal soul. He inherits the understanding and inheritance of generations and has extremely terrifying strength. Every time the Earth Emperor descends, it indicates that a catastrophe is about to come in the upper world, or that a demon has reincarnated to wreak havoc on the world. The Earth Emperor not only has supernatural means, but also has the special ability to identify demonic energy. No matter how he disguises and hides, he can't escape his eyes. Li Guanhai was thoughtful. This Earth Emperor is a bit interesting. Just now I heard that Saint Xianjing wanted to ask Fairy Wugo to calculate the whereabouts of the reincarnation of the Emperor of the Earth. It just so happens that I also need Fairy Wugo's help. How about going together? Li Guanhai had a faint smile on his face, which made people feel like spring breeze. Lu Xianjing nodded and said, of course I can. However, Fairy Wugo's heart tightened, thinking that Li Guanhai was related to the upcoming catastrophe. Now he took the initiative to ask for a journey. Could it be that he wanted to find out the whereabouts of the reincarnation of the Emperor of the Earth, and then? Fairy Wugo didn't dare to think further. Her heart was very confused, like countless messy threads entangled together, and she couldn't think at all. She took Lu Xianjing and Li Guanhai to the main peak in a daze, and came to the palace where her master lived, and asked to see him. Master, Saint Xianjing and young Master Guanhai are here. They all want you to use the Qinkuan Samsara plate to deduce divination. Come in. An old voice sounded. Fairy Wugo led the two into the palace, passing through the light white gauze curtain fluttering in the wind, and saw an old woman with a cane standing in front of a reincarnation disc with strange images of the stars in the sky. Junior Lu Xianjing of the Earth Emperor Palace greets Venerable Zi Ming. Junior Li Guanhai greets Venerable Zi Ming. Lu Xianjing and Li Guanhai greeted each other in a proper manner. The turbid old eyes of the purple nether lord swept across Lu Xianjing, and finally fell on Li Guanhai. He stared at him deeply for a long time, and then said, you two have come from afar, what do you want to predict? Li Guanhai smiled and said, Saint Xianjing arrived first, let Saint Xianjing come first. Thank you, Master Guanhai. Lu Xianjing bowed gracefully, and then asked the purple nether lord who was leaning on the cane, "Senior, the demon clan has revived, and the elders of my Earth Emperor Palace have sensed that the reincarnation of the Earth Emperor has appeared, so. I know, you want me to predict the location of the reincarnation of the Earth Emperor." The purple nether lord interrupted her. "That's right, for the stability of the upper realm, I must find the reincarnation of the Earth Emperor as soon as possible, protect him as he grows, until he awakens his memories and magical powers of his previous life." Xuan Jing's tone was flat, but his eyes were extremely firm. This demeanor looked like a living bodhisattva who was compassionate to all living beings. But she was not pretending, she really cared about the world and regarded maintaining the peace of the upper world as her lifelong duty and mission. Hearing this, Ziming Zun intentionally or unintentionally glanced at Li Guanhai, who had been smiling from beginning to end, and said, "Come here." "Thank you, Senior." Xuan Jing walked to the old woman, with a pair of cold eyes, staring closely at the wheel of reincarnation with the strange star image. Li Guanhai came to the side of the fairy Wu Go, who looked a little unnatural, and whispered, "Can this Changhong wheel of reincarnation really predict the secrets of heaven?" Feeling the approach of a crisp fragrance, fairy Wu Go tensed up and hurriedly lowered her head and replied, "Yes. The wheel of reincarnation can divine the world, and it can also predict the good and bad fortune of a world." "I see." Li Guanhai nodded and looked at her. He felt that her state today was a little abnormal. She was not as calm as the first time he saw her. She looked very nervous, her eyes were wandering, and she did not dare to look at him. Could it be that Venerable Ziming figured out his demon lord's eye and that's why Fairy Wu Go was so abnormal? Li Guanhai immediately denied this conjecture. The demon lord's eye is the eye of nothingness that existed before chaos was opened. It has the miraculous ability to reverse the world and reverse reincarnation, and it cannot be calculated. If it's not the eye of the demon lord, what is it? Li Guanhai kept an eye out. It seemed that he had to find a chance to find out what was going on, but he couldn't miss his big plan. If that doesn't work, then the only option is to destroy the Baikan Palace. At this time, Venerable Ziming tapped the samsara disc with his crutch, and the stars on the samsara disc began to rotate. Countless light points converged and formed a bright galaxy in the hall, which was extremely wonderful. The next moment, the galaxy gathered together and condensed into a sparkling picture on the samsara disc, but it was extremely blurry and could not be seen clearly. Xuan Jing looked very carefully, her eyes almost popped out of her head, but she couldn't see anything. She couldn't help but ask, "Senior, up here." Venerable Ziming said, "The memory of the Earth Emperor has not yet awakened. He only has his soul attached to his reincarnation. Therefore, the cycle of reincarnation cannot be accurately deduced. However, it can be confirmed that the reincarnation of the Earth Emperor is in the 10th century at this moment. Among the mountains." "Thank you, Senior." Xuan Jing looked happy and bowed deeply. Li Guanhai looked calm on the surface, but he was sneering in his heart. "Emperor of the Earth? Your sentient power must be delicious." At this time, Venerable Ziming looked at Li Guanhai and asked, "Young Master Guanhai, what do you want to predict?" "Hongmeng Jade." Li Guanhai answered truthfully and did not conceal anything. Venerable Ziming's cloudy old eyes flashed with light, as if he had thought of something. She was silent for a while, and then said, "I can make fortunes for young Master Guanhai, but before that, I would like to ask young Master Guanhai to agree to a condition." "Senior, please tell me." Li Guanhai smiled gently, and he was also a little curious about what kind of conditions the Venerable Ziming would put forward. Venerable Ziming glanced at his uneasy disciple and said, "The realm of no return in the 100,000 mountains is about to open, and Yenna will also enter it. I would like to ask young Master Guanhai to take care of her." "Master, you." As soon as these words came out, Fairy Wu Gu was immediately startled. She had always been calm, but now she was actually a little panicked. Li Guanhai glanced at her and said with a smile, "Fairy Wu Guan is the genius of our generation and has extraordinary strength. Why do I need to meddle in my own business? But now that Venerable Ziming has spoken, I will naturally protect her." "Thank you, young Master Guanhai." Venerable Ziming nodded, then turned the wheel of reincarnation and began to deduce the Hongmeng jade. Strange phenomena abounded in the palace, and stars moved around, and finally a picture was condensed on the reincarnation disc. It was a green mountain range that was rolling and towering into the clouds. There were birds soaring in the clouds. It was so beautiful, Venerable Ziming said. The Hongmeng jade is hidden in this mountain range, located in the southwest of the no-return realm. The specific location cannot be deduced. Moreover, the Hongmeng jade has developed spiritual intelligence and can move at will, so it can only rely on observing the sea. The young master went to look for it himself. That's enough, thank you Lord Ziming. Li Guanhai and the other three left the palace, each with their own concerns. Will Saint Xuan Jing also enter the realm of no return? Li Guanhai suddenly asked with a smile. Not necessarily. If the reincarnation of the Earth Emperor also enters the realm of no return, then I will also enter to look for him. If he does not enter, then there is no need for me to enter. Lu Xianjing replied. Hearing this, Li Guanhai couldn't help but be a little surprised. The world of no return is full of opportunities. From ancient times to the present, countless geniuses have obtained rare treasures and even the ancient inheritance of the spirit clan in the world of no return, so every time the realm of no return is opened, almost all the geniuses flock to it, squeezing their heads in to get in, but this Lu Xianjing is actually so calm and has no interest in the cornucopia of non-returning world. This uncontested temperament is simply a strange flower in the world of immortality. Chapter 55, You Can't Avoid the Calamity of Love. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Li Guanhai looked at the absent-minded Fairy Wugo and asked with a smile, Fairy Wugo, the no-return realm will be opened in a month. When do you plan to leave? How about we go together? No, I still need to stay in the Baikan Palace for a while. Thank you for your kindness, Master Guanhai. Hearing this, Fairy Wugo was shocked and hurriedly shook her head to refuse. Now she was flustered whenever she saw Li Guanhai, and she wanted to stay away from him. How could she be willing to go with him? Li Guanhai smiled slightly, narrowed his eyes and said, Fairy Wugo, do you have something to tell me? That he asked this question without a beginning or an end, which made Lu Xianjing frown slightly, feeling a little strange. Fairy Wugo's heart skipped a beat, and a trace of panic flashed in her eyes. Could he have known it? It's okay, Master Guanhai, what did you get from that? Although she was panicked, she didn't show it on her face. She remained calm and composed. Li Guanhai asked, Really? No. Fairy Wugo shook her head firmly and refused to admit it. So that's it. I was just joking just now. Fairy Wugo, don't mind it. Goodbye. Li Guanhai smiled and nodded goodbye. Finally, he looked at Lu Xianjing who was silent with a meaningful look. He took Li Ningxuang and others who had been waiting for a long time to board the flying Shenzhou and left the Baikan Palace. Many female disciples who heard the news and rushed here didn't even see Li Guanhai. They only saw a figure in white flying on the Shenzhou and leaving. They couldn't help but beat their chests and stamp their feet, feeling annoyed. I should have come earlier. Seeing Li Guanhai leave, Fairy Wugo couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. When she turned around, she saw Lu Xianjing looking at her suspiciously with a pair of cold eyes. She suddenly felt guilty, and her expression became a little unnatural. She asked, Xianjing, what are you looking at me for? Lu Xianjing said coldly, You seem a little strange. Strange? No, there is nothing strange about me. Fairy Wugo did not dare to look at her, for fear of revealing something. Little did she know that the more she did this, the more Lu Xianjing confirmed that there was something wrong with her. Did something happen between you and Li Guanhai? Lu Xianjing went straight to the point. Fairy Wugo did not expect that she would reveal it in one sentence, and suddenly became at a loss, her eyes wandering. This time Lu Xianjing confirmed her guess 100%, but although she knew that there was something strange between Fairy Wugo and Li Guanhai, she did not know what it was. Yenner, could it be that you? Lu Xianjing only said half of the words, but the meaning was already very clear. Fairy Wugo was horrified, fearing that her words would be heard by others, so she quickly made a gesture to silence and lowered her voice. Xianjing, please keep your voice down, don't talk nonsense, there is nothing between him and me. Lu Xianjing frowned and said, impossible, although this is your private matter, but as a friend, I must advise you that Li Guanhai is not as simple as he seems on the surface. If you fall in love with him, you may get nothing in the end and be left with sadness. Fairy Wugo saw her talking to herself, and her beautiful eyes outside the veil were full of anxiety. She defended, Xian Jing, there is really nothing between him and me, but, alas. She did not say anything more, but took Lu Xianjing back to her bedroom and told her about the love calamity, but did not mention anything about Li Guanhai and the catastrophe in the upper world. After learning the truth, Lu Xianjing was silent, and then asked, is there a way to solve it? He dies, or I die, or, we fall in love. Fairy Wugo sighed. She was unwilling to accept the first two results, and as for the third one, she didn't even think about it, let alone that she was the heir of Baikan Palace, pure-hearted and unmotivated, and didn't think about love between men and women. Even if she was willing, Li Guanhai might not be willing. He is the young master of Yunwei Division, the son of the master of Daoxuanshan Palace, and the husband of the future ruler of Xiaoxian dynasty. He is truly standing at the top of the upper world. There are countless beautiful women willing to throw themselves into his arms. How could he fall in love with her? Lu Xianjing asked again, what are you going to do? Stay away from him. I can't think of any other way. Fairy Wugo's voice seemed a little lonely, and her eyebrows were full of sorrow. Lu Xianjing shook her head and said, it's useless. The love calamity is extremely strange. Even if you keep hiding, you two will still meet in the dark. Then tell me, what should I do? Fairy Wugo stared at the saintess of the Earth Emperor Palace opposite her, who had a deep relationship with her. Lu Xianjing was silent, and finally said, since you can't avoid it, let it go. This time he will also go to the world of no return, and you will definitely meet. Yes. Fairy Wugo nodded gently. In fact, she had another thing in her mind and was struggling whether to tell Lu Xianjing. This matter was still about Li Guanhai. If she guessed correctly, the reason why the Earth Emperor appeared in advance was related to the reincarnation of the evil spirit who slaughtered Duanpu Mountain, but the main reason should still be Li Guanhai. According to the instructions of the Samsara disc, Li Guanhai was closely related to the upcoming catastrophe in the upper realm, and the Earth Emperor of each life appeared only when he sensed that the catastrophe was about to come. This was too coincidental. Everything happened in the same time period. Fairy Wugo hesitated for a long time, and finally chose to keep the secret. After all, her master only said that Li Guanhai might be related to the catastrophe in the upper world, not absolutely. If Lu Xianjing was told about this, with her stubborn character who liked to get stuck in a dead end, she would definitely investigate it thoroughly. By then, not only Li Guanhai would be in trouble, but Lu Xianjing would also be in danger, so let's wait until she finds the Emperor of the Earth. With the Emperor of the Earth's unparalleled magical powers, all problems can be solved, and it just happens to be able to determine whether Li Guanhai is related to the catastrophe in the upper world. Lu Xianjing enlightened Fairy Wugo for a long time, then turned into a divine rainbow and left the Baikan Palace, rushing to the 10,000 mountains. She must find the reincarnation of the Emperor of the Earth as soon as possible and protect him. What she didn't know was that a figure hidden in the void was following her slowly. This figure was dressed in white, with stunning eyebrows and flawless appearance. It was Li Guanhai. There was a faint black light surging between his eyebrows, like a third eye, observing everything around him through his perspective. This Li Guanhai was just a demonic clone of the original. The real Li Guanhai was sitting on the throne in the flying Shenzhou Palace, enjoying Li Ningxuang's massage while flipping through an ancient book called Records of Strange Treasures of Mountains and Seas. Chapter 57, What do you want to be explained? You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the past half-month, Yang Chaner took the Emperor's falling flower and refined it. Her cultivation level has been greatly improved, and she has already reached the late stage of Xian Shui. Now that her aura was revealed, countless monks suddenly changed their colors, widened their eyes, and looked in disbelief. A girl of 15 or 16 years old actually has the cultivation level of Xian Shui in the later stage. She has already reached the category of the top geniuses in the upper world, and she is also one of the top among the top. The monks looked solemnly, and they all looked closely at this girl in white clothes who was as pure as ice. A genius with such an evil talent shouldn't be unknown in the upper world. Which orthodox religion is she a descendant of? Could it be that he is a casual cultivator? Impossible, the cultivation resources of casual cultivators are too poor, and without all kinds of heavenly materials and earthly treasures to cleanse bones, cut marrow, warm and nourish qi and blood, it is impossible to reach the late stage of Xian Shui at this age. All kinds of thoughts arose in the minds of the monks, and many people had a love for talents. They wanted to bring this little girl into their own Taoist influence and train her well. She would definitely become a famous figure in the future. At this moment, the green-robed young man was completely shocked by young Chan'er. He never imagined that this girl, who was as beautiful as a snow-capped mountain fairy, could have such a terrifying cultivation level. She was not even inferior to him, the young master of Qiyang Immortal Mansion. He couldn't help but wonder in his heart, could this girl be the genius of some Taoist sect? Why have you never heard of such a number one person before? But now that things have come to this, and there are so many monks watching down there, we must not lose face. Thinking of this, the young man in green robe snorted coldly and said, "Girl, you are so powerful, but you hurt your comrade for no reason and you do it so harshly, isn't it a bit too much?" He asked for it. Young Chan'er's voice was as indifferent as water. Righteous monks are of the same spirit, and all sects and sects should live in harmony. Girl, you hurt people at will. Do you want to deliberately provoke disputes among the various sects and cause chaos in the world? That the young man in green robe spoke in an unhurried tone, but his words confounded right and wrong, like a sword. He stood on the moral high ground and accused her with hypocritical righteousness. As soon as these words came out, many monks who were paying attention here couldn't help but shake their heads and sneer. They are not the kind of fools who will be swayed by words. On the contrary, they are very smart. They can see at a glance that the young man in green robe is unable to get off the stage, so they unreasonably stir up trouble and accuse the girl in white robe of evil intentions, hoping to save some face. Young Chan'er had long been impatient and was too lazy to listen to his nonsense, so she turned around and left gracefully. "Girl, you can't leave before you finish speaking. The person you injured just now is my follower. You must give me an explanation for whatever you say." That when the young man in green robe saw that she was ignoring him, his face suddenly felt dull. He turned into a divine rainbow and chased after her, stopping her. Young Chan'er's eyebrows furrowed tighter and tighter. Just when she wanted to take action directly to drive away the flies in front of her eyes, thunder rolled in the sky, casting a huge shadow. Looking up, it turned out that the flying divine boat of Yunwei Division had come back and stopped in the sky above Changhong City. Immediately afterwards, more than 20 divine rainbows fell from the sky. The man at the head was wearing a white shirt, with long hair like a waterfall, and his whole body was shrouded in a faint silver glow, like a dream. His eyebrows were astonishing, his eyes were cold and indifferent, extraordinary and aloof, with an aura of inviolability. Seeing the visitor, the green-robed young man was startled and hurriedly raised his hands and saluted. "Pei Ying of Qiyang Immortal Mansion has met. Young Master Guanhai." The person who came was none other than Li Guanhai. He didn't even glance at the frightened Pei Ying, but directly focused on young Chan'er, who was frowning and staring at him with big eyes. "Chan'er, are you in trouble again?" That as soon as these words were spoken, Pei Ying's heart pounded, the hairs all over his body stood up, and cold sweat broke out on his back. Chan'er. Could it be that this girl is related to young Master Guanhai? The more he thought about it, the more frightened and regretful he became, and his legs began to tremble uncontrollably. However, what shocked him even more was that young Chan'er had an expression of disgust on her face, and said dissatisfiedly, "Li Guanhai, don't call me that. Also, what do you mean I got into trouble again? Don't talk nonsense." She was still brooding over what happened that night half a month ago. Every time she thought of it, she felt ashamed and angry, wishing that she and Li Guanhai would die together. Of course he won't look good when he sees him again now. "Hey, young Chan'er, you made a mistake and didn't remember to hit me. Your feet are itchy again, right?" Li Guanhai sneered, his eyes flashing coldly. Hearing him mention this matter, young Chan'er suddenly felt like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. She was ashamed, angry and anxious. "Li Guanhai, stop threatening me. If you dare to bully me again, I will follow you. Fight, that she was menacing, with fierce eyes, without any of her previous fairy aura, just like a wild cat with exploded hair. Oh. Li Guanhai smiled coldly. Yang Chaner suddenly had an ominous premonition, turned around and turned into a divine rainbow to escape, very fast and without any delay. However, she had just swept a short distance away when her whole body was suddenly frozen in the void, unable to move even a finger. The pupils of countless monks who were watching the excitement shrank suddenly, and they all exclaimed in surprise. It's the realm of laws. Oh my God, the rumors are true. Young Master Guanhai has really understood the realm of laws. As expected of a god. Just when the monks were praising them, Yang Chaner shouted angrily, it's this trick again, it's unfair. If you have the ability, don't use the field of law. I will fight you alone. That the void fluctuated, and Li Guanhai appeared in front of Yang Chaner, chuckling, why can't I use the law domain that I comprehended with my own ability? You. Yang Chaner was speechless for a moment. What do you mean by you? You are getting more and more daring, let me see how I will deal with you later. Li Guanhai's tone was calm, but his words made Yang Chaner tremble with fear. She couldn't help but think of the torture that night, and her heart sank to the bottom of the valley. At this moment, the young master of Qiang Immortal Mansion was so scared that his face turned pale, his legs trembled like sieves, and his eyes were full of fear and regret. He never thought that this girl would be Li Guanhai's sister. If he knew, he would have worshipped her as an ancestor, and he would never dare to offend her. He had also seen Yunweisi's thundering methods many years ago. It was like a mountain hitting the top and a dragon riding on his face, leaving a deep mark in his young mind, and he still felt scared when he thought of it. The cold-blooded and cruel young master of the Yunwei Division is also well known in the upper realm. If you offend him, you will definitely suffer. Pei Ying became more and more panicked and wanted to slap himself twice. I told you to be obsessed with lust and blind. At this time, Li Guanhai floated over with Yang Chaner, who was imprisoned in the field of law, and looked at Pei Ying with cold and indifferent eyes. You just asked my sister to give you an explanation. What explanation do you want? Chapter 58, The Soul-Captivating Orb. I'll keep it for you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After hearing this, Pei Ying's legs went weak and she almost lost her footing and fell down. If there was no one here, he would definitely do this without hesitation, but now, thousands of people are watching here. If he kneels down and admits his mistake in public, then he will become the object of ridicule and contempt by everyone, and the reputation of Qiang Immortal Mansion behind him will also be disgraced. The appearance of such a disciple who corrupted the sect is simply a shame to the sect. By that time, even if his father is the master of Qiang Immortal Mansion, he may not be able to withstand the joint pressure of many elders, and his identity as the young master of the palace will definitely not be preserved. These are only the second. The more important thing is the Taoist mind. Once Pei Ying kneels down, his Taoist heart will definitely be damaged, which will cause immeasurable losses to his spiritual practice. He may even develop inner demons and stop moving forward, so he resisted not to kneel down, but bowed deeply and said in a trembling voice, misunderstandings are all misunderstandings. Young Master Guanhai, I was just joking with your sister. That's all, don't take it seriously. Thousands of mistakes are all my fault. I am willing to apologize and compensate your sister heavily. As he spoke, Pei Ying hurriedly took out a milky white jade bead from the Qianquan bag and handed it over. This is the soul-catching orb. It can independently absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, remove impurities, and condense it into essence. It can greatly strengthen the monk's ability. Foundation, increase the speed of cultivation. Hearing this, Yang Chaner, who had eyes burning with fire and almost wanted to kill someone, straightened her eyes and stared straight at the soul-catching orb. If Li Guanhai hadn't been holding it and couldn't move, she would have snatched it away long ago. Li Guanhai had a gentle smile on his face and said, it's just a small matter. Brother Pei doesn't need to care so much. But since Brother Pei has such good intentions, how can I refuse? After saying that, he hooked his fingers, and a thread of mana wrapped around the soul-catching orb in Pei Ying's hand and pulled it into his palm. A trace of physical pain flashed across Pei Ying's face, but she was more relieved. Today's matter was finally resolved. Young Master Guanhai, I'll take my leave now. Pei bowed her hands and saluted, being meticulous in etiquette, and then left quickly with a dozen followers, returning to Qiang Immortal Mansion's camp stationed outside the city. Li Guanhai, let me go quickly and return the soul-catching orb to me, that they had just left when Yang Chaner started shouting again, extremely anxious. It was really embarrassing to be carried like a little chicken by Li Guanhai in front of everyone. More importantly, the soul-catching orb is a good thing, she must get it. What would a kid do with such a valuable thing? If it gets lost again, I'd better keep it for you as a brother. Li Guanhai's righteous words are taken for granted. Who wants you to keep it? Li Guanhai, please return the things and beads to me. Yang Chaner's eyes were red, she almost fainted from anger, and she started yelling again in a hurry. Li Guanhai ignored her at all, and directly carried her into the sky, flying onto the flying divine boat in the clouds. Li Ningshuang, a group of followers and the Qingqi guards followed closely. Seeing Li Guanhai and his party leaving, the monks in Changhong city began to discuss in low voices. Wow, is that the famous Calinzi from the Yunwei Division in the upper realm, the young Master Guanhai who claims to have the appearance of a god? This is the first time I have seen his true face. As expected of young Master Guanhai, he shocked young Master Pei of Qiang Immortal Mansion with just one sentence, and even made him hand over the soul-catching orb. Yes, that soul-catching orb is a good thing. It has many functions and is extremely precious. But have you noticed that there seems to be something wrong with young Master Guanhai's complexion? I found out that although young Master Guanhai is majestic, he looks weak and his face looks a little pale. It seems that the rumors are true. Young Master Guanhai was invaded by Yin Qi and his origin was injured. There were different opinions for a while. What happened here spread quickly, and now almost everyone in Changhong city knows that Li Guanhai has a younger sister whose nickname is Chaner. All the great sects have warned their disciples not to provoke the girl named Chaner, otherwise Li Guanhai will definitely not let it go due to his temperament. Li Guanhai carried young Chaner and flew onto the flying Shenzhou, non-stop all the way, directly into the palace where he usually lived. Young Chaner was so frightened that she cried and fussed, but she couldn't defeat the hard-hearted Li Guanhai and was carried directly into the palace. No one knew what happened in the palace. Li Ningshuang and her followers only heard young Chaner's screams with a bitter smile, and they couldn't help but have some wild thoughts. An hour later, the palace door opened. Young Chaner walked out with red eyes and a big painted face. Her walking posture looked a little weird and she was limping. Without saying a word, she flew off the flying Shenzhou without knowing where she went. In the palace, a system prompt sounded in Li Guanhai's ears, bite. It was detected that young Chaner's resentment towards the host increased, and she gained 400 luck points and 1600 points. Bite. A new Son of Luck is detected, triggering the rules for killing and dropping the Son of Luck. Bite. Open additional mission rewards and receive blessings from heaven. A new Son of Destiny appears. Is it Xia Hoshu or the reincarnation of the Emperor of Earth? Li Guanhai raised his eyebrows with an interested smile on his face. At the same time, outside Changhong city, a young man with a handsome face, firm eyes, and a black robe on his body stood under the tower. He looked at the extremely lively Changhong city, his heart was full of pride, and a smile appeared on his face hidden under the cloak. Master, we have arrived in Changhong city. The young man suddenly whispered, and strangely, there was no one around him, as if he was talking to himself. However, the next moment, an ancient ring on the index finger of his left hand flickered faintly, and an old voice that only he could hear came from the ring. Very good, you find a place to live, try not to go out during this period, and don't cause trouble, just wait for the opening of the world of no return. The young man nodded and whispered, I understand, I have several close friends who arrived in Changhong city half a month ago, I can stay with them. Well, be careful, after all, that girl has been tracking your whereabouts, and it is hard to guarantee that your friends will not have bad intentions and expose your whereabouts to please Xiaoho Xianchao. The old voice reminded, the young man in black robe was Xiaoho Aoshue's cousin, Xiaoho Su. I know, Master. Xiaoho Su asked, Master, you said that there is an ancient treasure in the Bugue realm that existed before the creation of the world. Is this true? Oh, of course it is true. Can your master lie to you? That the old voice snorted coldly, as if he was somewhat dissatisfied with the young man's suspicion. At this moment, there was a rumbling sound in the sky, and a huge shadow covered the sky and rolled over the top of Changhong City. Looking up, it turned out to be a majestic flying Shenzhou. It's someone from the Yunwei Division. Xiahou Su looked at the flying Shenzhou, his eyes full of amazement and emotion. Suddenly, he noticed that the soul in the ring fluctuated violently, and his breath became anxious. Xiahou Su frowned and asked in confusion, "Master, what's wrong with you?" "Nothing." The soul in the ring seemed unwilling to say more, and fell silent. Xiahou Su was thoughtful and couldn't help wondering, could his master who existed in ancient times have any deep hatred with Yunweisi? If that was the case, it would be a big trouble. The master had taught him and saved him from danger several times. If the master really had a blood feud with Yunweisi, how could he, as a disciple, turn a blind eye to it? But it was really a fantasy to want to deal with Yunweisi. Yunweisi was a behemoth that existed in ancient times. Countless years have passed. Its power spread across the upper realm and 3,000 realms. Its accumulation of foundation was unimaginable. Thinking of this, Xiahou Su couldn't help but have a headache and a deep sense of powerlessness. He sighed and cleared his mind. Other things will be discussed later. The most urgent thing is to solve the current problems first. In another month, the world of no return will be opened. He must get the ancient treasures inside. This is also his only chance to turn over. Just as Xiahou Su was about to enter Changhong City, a rumbling sound came from the distant sky again. The dragon roar resounded through the world, and the sky seemed to tremble with it, with an extremely terrifying momentum. Looking back, I saw 9 ferocious and terrifying dragons in the distant sky, pulling a chariot and galloping, with a very huge momentum. Xiahou Aoshue, thought the hatred in Xiahou Su's eyes flashed, but he quickly hid it well. Boy, don't let hatred control your emotions. You can't conflict with her now. Hold back first, there is a long way to go. The old voice sounded in Xiahou Su's ears, calming his restless heart. Yes, master. Xiahou Su suppressed the deep hatred in his heart, took 2 deep breaths, turned around and walked into Changhong City. Chapter 59, The Girl with Sword in Her Eyes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 9 dragons pulled the chariot and landed on Li Guanhai's flying divine boat. The car curtain opened, and Xiahou Aoshue, wearing a light white dress, stooped and walked out. Her narrow phoenix eyes were alluring, but also majestic. Her green silk hair was combed into a gorgeous bun, her jade hairpin was loosely tied up, and a jade hairpin was inserted into her hair. The beads trembled down and swayed gently. Her skin is as white as snow, her lips are painted with vermilion, and her eyebrows are lightly swept, making her look stunningly beautiful. Aoshue, you're here so soon. My husband thought it would take some time for you to arrive. Li Guanhai stood in front of the chariot, with a slight smile on his handsome and flawless face. Hearing this, Xiahou Aoshue's beautiful face glowed with red clouds, and his face became even more beautiful and charming. Li Ningshuang on the side pursed her red lips slightly, her eyes a little resentful. Li Guanhai took Xiahou Aoshue into the palace and asked with a smile, Aoshue, have you broken through to the peak of Xian Shui? Well, I broke through 3 days ago. Xiahou Aoshue nodded slightly. Because she was sitting too close to Li Guanhai, she couldn't help but feel her ears tingling and her heart beating. Although she is a future empress with thunderous means, cruelty and coldness, she is also a little girl with only 20 years of life. She had never experienced anything between a man and a woman, so it was inevitable that she would be flustered. As expected of my woman. Li Guanhai smiled slightly and put his arms around her shoulders. Xiahou Aoshue adapted quickly after getting nervous. She leaned in Li Guanhai's arms with peace of mind, enjoying the warmth and sweetness of the moment. Aoshue, your cousin has arrived in Changhong City. Li Guanhai said this. Hearing this, Xiahou Aoshue did not show any surprise, but asked softly, then how do you want to deal with him? Nowadays, Changhong City is in a turmoil, and all the Taoisms are gathered together. This is not a good opportunity to take action. After he enters the realm of no return, his death will come. Li Guanhai's tone was calm, as if he was talking about an ordinary and trivial matter, just when they were leaning on each other and their feelings were heating up. Deep in the Xuanhuan mountains, dangers lurk everywhere. Miss, run! A middle-aged man roared loudly, holding a bright silver sword in his hand, staring at the huge monster rushing out of the cave. This demonic beast stood on all fours, was 3 feet tall and 5 feet long. It was covered in white hair and exuded a terrifying ferocious aura. Roar! The monster beast opened its bloody mouth and roared, and a strong fishy smell rushed to the face, which was disgusting. A wave of air spread out, and suddenly sand and rocks flew, and the sky became dark and the earth became dark. The middle-aged man took 2 steps back, roared suddenly, and the magic power around his body exploded, resisting the power, and shouted, "Come on, let's fight with me." As soon as he finished speaking, he advanced instead of retreating. He actually took the initiative and jumped up high. The silver knife in his hand flashed with a dazzling cold light and chopped off the white-haired monster's head. Uncle Wei, in the distance, a girl with fair skin and delicate appearance was forcibly pulled forward. She turned back 3 times at a time, just in time to see the middle-aged man slashing with a knife. The next moment, her look of panic and worry froze directly on her face. The huge head of the white-haired demonic beast turned and easily dodged the silver sword. Then it opened its bloody mouth and bit the middle-aged man in half like 2 guillotines. Then he tossed it gently, threw it into his extremely smelly mouth, and chewed it into pieces. The pretty girl's eyes were straight and her face was bloodless. She stared at this scene in a daze, as if she was dumbfounded. "Uncle Wei," she murmured. Her eyes instantly turned red, and her tears fell like broken pearls. Uncle Wei watched her grow up and was very kind to her. The 2 of them could be said to be as close as father and daughter. Now Uncle Wei died in front of her, but she could only watch helplessly, helpless. This deep feeling of powerlessness was about to make her collapse. "Let me go, I want to go back, I want to avenge Uncle Wei." The girl became agitated and began to struggle. "Miss, calm down, that monster has reached the late stage of Xian Shui, and you will only die if you go back. Wei Yuanda sacrificed his life to buy you time to escape. You must not let him down. Miss, it's never too late for a gentleman to seek revenge after 10 years. When we go back and gather some men, we can come and seek revenge on this white-haired beast." The mercenaries tried to dissuade her, but without slowing down at all, they pulled the girl forward as if she had lost her soul. At the very back of the team followed a thin, handsome young man. The strange thing is that at this critical moment, there is no panic look on the young man's face. Instead, he is calm and without any disturbance, but his eyes were blank, as if he was not looking at the road, but at another world. What no one noticed was that wisps of mist-like magical energy were surging through him, and some ancient memory was gradually awakening. A group of people fled forward in a panic. They didn't care about east, west, north or south, they just ran away. Suddenly, a strong wave of air came from behind. Everyone didn't know what happened. They saw pieces of the ancient Sangtian tree nearby collapsed and broken, and dust filled the sky. Immediately afterwards, there was a roar from the sky-shattering beast in front, and the flying dust was dispersed by the sound waves. A ferocious beast covered with white fur had blocked the way, and its scarlet eyes stared at the group of people who were heartbroken. A stream of transparent saliva hung from the corner of its mouth and dripped onto the grass, instantly corroding and withering a patch of young grass and wildflowers. "It's over, it's completely over, we are all going to die here today." A mercenary with a full beard on his face said in a trembling voice that he was extremely desperate at the moment, and his whole body was cold as if he had fallen into an ice cave. Not only him, but all the mercenaries had this thought in their hearts at the moment, and the pretty girl, although she was also very scared in her heart, was more angry and hateful. She opened her bright eyes and looked at the white-haired monster fearlessly. The next moment, the white-haired monster made a creepy move. It actually laughed, and it was a sneer full of sarcasm and mockery. The mercenaries were cold all over, their legs trembled, and they were even more desperate. "Oh my God, this monster has opened its spiritual wisdom. What should I do? I don't want to die. Who can save me?" The 2 mercenaries murmured, their voices were filled with tears. In the blink of an eye, a strong wind came, the white shadow flickered, and the 2 frightened mercenaries were blown away by the monster's claws. knocking down a large number of ancient trees and finally exploding into two balls of blood mist in the air. Everyone was shocked by the sudden change, and the remaining mercenaries finally collapsed, running around like headless flies, screaming in fear while running. The white-haired monster swayed, moving quickly in the forest like a gust of wind, attacking and biting, and swallowed all the mercenaries into its stomach in a few breaths, without any escape. In the huge mountain forest, only 2 people and 1 beast were left. Clang, the girl drew the sword at her waist, and a blue light suddenly appeared, with a charm flowing on the sword. She pointed the sword at the white-haired monster. Her eyes were firm. She was not afraid at all, and she did not retreat at all, and there was a faint blue light flickering between her eyebrows. Upon closer inspection, it seemed that there was a sword spirit that was absolutely powerful and subverted the world. A trace of confusion flashed in the eyes of the white-haired monster, and it growled uneasily. Its scarlet eyes turned and stared at the thin boy behind the girl. The next moment, it kicked its hind legs, and its huge body jumped into the air, rushing towards the boy like a mountain. "Be careful," that the girl shouted and warned, but the boy seemed to be scared and stood there motionless. When he was about to be torn into pieces by the white-haired monster, a golden light shone brightly between the boy's eyebrows, and an indescribable energy wave swept out like a raging wolf. The boy's eyes radiated fluorescence, converging into a golden thread that could be extended infinitely and without any impurities. The golden thread was like alive, extremely fast and agile, and instantly entangled the white-haired monster in mid-air. The next moment, the white-haired monster didn't even have time to scream, and its huge body was peeled off layer by layer, first the skin, then the flesh, then the tendons, and finally the bones. In just a blink of an eye, this monster, which had awakened its intelligence and reached the late stage of Xian Shui, was broken into a pile of powder, leaving no trace. Chapter 60, One Kick Brings About an Opportunity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Feng Yu, you. The girl widened her eyes and looked at the calm, thin and handsome boy in great surprise. She originally thought that Feng Yu was dead, but she didn't expect that a miracle would happen at the critical moment, and this miracle was created by Feng Yu. How did he do it? The girl's big eyes were full of doubts. Feng Yu had been struggling in the mercenary group when he was very young. He had no talent for cultivation and could only do some small things. There were always many mercenaries who liked to bully and tease him. The girl felt sorry for him, so she took him as her follower. The two had known each other for more than a year, but now, the girl suddenly felt that this familiar boy had become a little strange. Although the skin was still the same, the soul was no longer the original soul. Feng Yu also saw the doubt and uncertainty in the girl's eyes, but he didn't care. He said lightly, "It's too dangerous here. It's not suitable to stay for a long time. Let's go." After that, he turned and walked out of the 10,000 mountains. The girl pursed her lips, hesitated for a while, and finally followed him. Although she felt that Feng Yu was no longer the same Feng Yu, he was the only person she could rely on in the depths of the 10,000 mountains, which were full of dangers. The girl still had a knot in her heart. Feng Yu clearly had the ability to deal with the white-haired monster, so why didn't he take action at the beginning, but had to wait until the last moment to take action? Was he trying to hide something? If he could take action earlier, would Uncle Wei and the other mercenaries not have to die? The girl was in a mess, and all kinds of thoughts were entangled in her mind, making her unable to think. An hour later, a white light fell from the sky. The white light dissipated, revealing Xuan Jing's cold and beautiful figure. She stood in the air, her skirt fluttering in the wind, and a faint silver glow enveloped her body, making her look like a fairy in the cold palace who had cut off all 7 emotions and 6 desires. Her beautiful eyes, as cold as water, swept across a pile of powder on the ground, and she couldn't help showing joy. It is indeed the reincarnation of the Emperor of the Earth. The next moment, the space trembled, and Xuan Jing disappeared. As soon as she left, Li Guanhai's evil clone appeared. He also noticed the pile of powder on the ground, and his mind moved, his pupils flashed red, and he began to deduce what happened here just now. After a while, the red light in his pupils gradually dissipated. Li Guanhai raised the corners of his mouth and smiled slightly. Feng Yu. His figure gradually faded, and as the void twisted, he finally disappeared. At the same time, over Changhong city, in the palace of the flying Shenzhou. "What are you drawing?" Xiahou Aoshue asked softly with a breath as beautiful as orchid. Li Guanhai held a wolf hair brush and drew a strange pattern on the paper, smiling, the totem of a certain mercenary group. Ningxuang. He called out softly, and the void fluctuated. Li Ningxuang's enchanting figure appeared in the hall. She raised her charming eyes and glanced at the two people sitting next to each other on the throne, her voice flat. Master, what do you want? Li Guanhai raised the paper lightly, and the four corners of the paper on the table unfolded, spread it flat in the air, and flew steadily in front of Li Ningxuang. Go and investigate which mercenary group's totem this is. Yes, master. Li Ningxuang took the paper, glanced at it, and remembered the totem on it clearly, then bowed and disappeared. How long has she been with you? Xiahou Aoshue, who had never spoken, suddenly asked. Li Guanhai said, she watched me being born. Xiahou Aoshue said oh and said no more. Li Guanhai asked with a smile, are you jealous? No. Xiahou Aoshue shook her head, with no expression on her face. Guanhai, you, Li Guanhai, you bastard, I will take revenge sooner or later. Plop. Beside a stream outside Changhong city, Yang Chaner kicked stones into the stream while cursing Li Guanhai to vent her inner shame and humiliation. Originally, Yang Chaner was determined to take revenge, but now she is a little discouraged. When they were in Mingshan Jumai, Li Guanhai's cultivation was higher than hers. She knew she was not her opponent, so she chose to forbear, thinking that she would be able to defeat him when she broke through to the late stage of Xuanhuan. But when Yang Chaner finally broke through to the late stage of Xuanhuan, she despaired and found that Li Guanhai had comprehended the field of laws. The gap between the two not only did not narrow, but became larger and larger. This hit Yang Chaner hard, and she couldn't help but have the idea that she would never catch up with the other party. However, when she thought that Li Guanhai was invaded by Yin Qi and might not have much time left, Yang Chaner's mood became complicated. She was worried and angry. The two emotions mixed together, making her very irritable. Damn it, she yelled, and kicked hard with her numb little feet. Several stones shot out like bullets, puffing into the water, leaving a vacuum water hole. Suddenly, a flying stone reflected a bright blue light under the sunlight and quickly fell into the stream. Yang Chaner's eyes lit up and she jumped directly into the stream. The stream split in all directions and was isolated by an invisible magic barrier. She bent down to pick up the stone emitting a blue light, jumped back to the shore, sat on a blue stone, and looked at it carefully. She turned it over and over in her hand, but there was nothing unusual. But when she injected her magic power into it, the stone suddenly glowed blue, and many stars appeared out of thin air. The stars connected to each other and actually formed a map, which pointed to an ancient treasure cave. Yang Chaner was surprised and happy. The first thing she did was to see if there was anyone nearby, for fear that someone would rob her. She had been psychologically traumatized by Li Guanhai. First, the Emperor Luohua, then the soul-capturing orb, were all robbed by him. Seeing that there was no one nearby, Yang Chaner breathed a sigh of relief, her two big eyes curved into crescents, and she jumped away. Not long after she left, a handsome young man in a black robe came to the stream. He held an octagonal ancient mirror in his hand and stood on the shore for a long time. Finally, he frowned and said, Master, I can't sense the location of the Chaos Stone. The young man was Xiahou Su. The ring on his finger glowed slightly, and a faint shadow of the soul floated out. It was an old man with white hair and beard, wearing a plain robe, and surrounded by divine light. It seems that someone got there first and got the Chaos Stone before you. The old man stroked his beard and sighed. His face was very ugly. Damn it, the Chaos Stone is the only key to open the ancient god treasure cave, and the ancient treasure that Master mentioned is also in it. Who took my chance? Xiahou Su's face was even more gloomy. He clenched his fists, and there was a cold light flashing in his eyes. It was obviously extremely angry. That ancient god treasure cave was related to his revenge plan and even determined his future destiny. I thought that this time I came to the 10,000 mountains, I would be able to get the inheritance and treasures in the ancient god treasure cave smoothly, avenge the extermination of the clan, and then control the Xiahou immortal dynasty and dominate one side. Unfortunately, ideals are full, but reality is very skinny. The old man said, Boy, don't be angry. I already know the location of the ancient god's treasure cave by heart. After the world of no return is opened, we just need to wait and see for her to fall into the trap. Well, that's all we can do. Xiahou Su nodded, his restless mood gradually calmed down, and he whispered, I want to see who dares to take advantage of my opportunity.